Recording in progress.
Good evening and welcome everyone to our public roundtable hearing for public roundtable budget hearing agenda for October 15th, 2024. This is our 5:30 meeting. It's our first 5:30 that I believe we've had this year. So welcome everybody to the evening meeting. Glad to see everybody here in the audience and online. This meeting is a continuation from our public budget roundtables that started on Tuesday, September 24th at 2 p.m. And so with that, I'm going to then have everyone stand and we'll do the pledge and call this meeting to order.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So please let the record reflect that we have 4 commissioners present. Commissioner French was not able to attend tonight. So with that, then we will start with the 2025 Budget Roundtable presentation number 2 from Randy Bischoff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Evening, I don't know, what is it, 5:30? This is the continuation, as you said. Typically in this meeting, we would talk about general fund expenses. This year has been a little different as far as our budget process. So if you want to go to the next slide, just inform the public of where we're at and what we're doing. We did do our revenue projection. We talked about that 3 weeks ago. We did start the budget process the same way, asking for submissions of everybody's budget, just saying it was going to be a tight year. When we got that back and brought that to you, we discussed our revenue was going to be very flat compared to 2024. And so we set target budgets for each of the departments equal to their 2024 adopted budgets without capital. And so those target budgets have come in. Excuse me. In addition, we knew that there were a lot of requests for more. You know, there's raises and, you know, costs go up. So we knew that there would be additional requests. So we asked those departments to also present those requests to you. And with that, the last 3 weeks, you've had a number of presentations from a number of departments. We have some more scheduled for next Monday. And at that time, we'll be starting to ask for decisions from the commissioners as to what to do with the budget for 2025. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So where we're at right now is currently we believe our revenue is going to be $259.3 million in the general fund. We talked about this 3 weeks ago, but sales tax, we're looking at a small increase in 25 over 24 actual. We're looking at about a 1%. Currently this year, we're running at about a 0.5% if you look at our 12-month average. Property tax, this number does not include a 1%. If that decision will be made by the commissioners on November 18th. If you do a 1% add, that is about $600,000 of additional revenue. This does not include any levy shifts, or it does not include any bank capacity. And then, of course, we had other charges for services. So where we're starting at from a balanced budget is $259.3 million. So if we go to the next slide, the target budget is 247.2. Now that is less than our adopted budget last year, but we had a lot of one-time things in the budget. ARP dollars, we had some money in the budget for the ball diamond, things like that. So those are not going to repeat. So we took those out. And so our target budget is 247.2 if everybody could do exactly what they had last year, which means the commissioners, we have about 12.1 where we can say, what do we want to spend additional money on? And just kind of the areas that that money is located in, you know, public safety and justice, of course, are the 2 largest pieces. And then on our right, we have about 23.9 million in additional requests. And we have about 30 million of capital, but as we'll talk later, capital doesn't have to all come out of the general fund. There's a number of funding sources for capital that we have. So even though we have 54.3 million of asks, that all does not have to come from the general fund. Next slide, please. Here's the breakdown. So public safety, I mean, that's going to be like the detention, sheriff, things like that. We've got about 16 million of additional money over last year's budget that is being asked for. Justice is the other big area. Again, that's going to be courts, prosecutors, public defenders, people like that. And then capital, you'll see a big one in general government. That is primarily infrastructure at the campus. And for public safety, we've got, the annual cars that we buy in there. We've got fixes to the jail, to modernize and to Geiger. So, and we have the helicopter, which we ordered, won't hit until next year, so that is in that number as well. Next slide. Here's a breakdown of that capital, just kind of the high-level ones.
I couldn't understand what you said. Did you say, Randy, that the helicopter is in next year or the year after?
It is in the we will need to put that in the 2025 budget.
Okay.
Even though we ordered it in 24, we won't receive it
Right,
until
okay.
25. So it is part of the capital
It's
ask.
part of that 12.6 on your slide?
Yes.
Okay,
Or-
thank you.
yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't hear if you said is or isn't.
Okay, sorry.
But we have additional funding.
Yes, right. So even though the helicopter was around $3 million, we had some grant funds, some special monies from the feds. We had some monies from WASPIC. So that isn't how much the county needs to pay, but that is, the total request is $3 million. But that's where I'm saying that general fund, we don't need to spend all of the 12.1. That's where we have a lot of different funding sources to pay for these items. It could be whether it's, and we can go to the next slide, kind of the funding options on the right-hand side. You have the general fund, whether it could be reserves, it could be current operations, special revenue. For example, we did receive money from the feds for the helicopter. We received some other offerings for the helicopter from, I want to say WASPIC, was it, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
and we sold, yeah.
And we sold the helicopter. So a lot of that money is, I would call, special revenue. It's not having to come out of our current operations. We also have things like REIT 1. REIT 1 can be used for a lot of the buildings on the campus. REIT 2, that's more for parks, but then we also have grants. So as we talk about 30 million of capital for next year, we may not do it all, but as you go through those decisions, we have a number of different levers that we can choose to pay for those things. It doesn't all have to be the general fund. So really, numbers, we haven't changed anything. The next step, I would say next Monday at our planning meeting, we have the last few departments that you've asked to come in, present. Then we're going to talk about some mental health sales tax and how maybe some of that money could be used. We will also be talking about capital, some car rental tax, how maybe that can fund some of these capital requests as well. And then we're going to have to start making decisions on how are we going to allocate that extra money, where are we going to give that to, because we have about 3 weeks left before we have the next roundtable, and that one is when we usually have the budget completed for that general fund. We might be a little late this year. We might be a week late. I know we've only got about an extra week. I think we'll still get to our December 2nd budget adoption. But hopefully we can get to the budget, the general fund completed in the next 3 weeks. So that's kind of, don't have any new numbers. The current numbers we have, they are posted on our website. I know we've had at least one citizen asked where they were, and we got them, Patrick did a great job, got them pointed to the right link so that they could see it, which has all the detail in it. So, but really, we don't have a lot more to share other than this is the process we're going through this year. Revenue is tight. And the way sales tax is going, I would expect that we will have this conversation again next year, so. Okay.
Are there any questions for Randy? Commissioner Jordan?
Thank you, Randy, for the information. And can you just clarify whether a flat budget, based on the presentations of the departments, requires or would lead to layoffs of current staff? And the reason I ask that is, you talked about the additional money that we have to spend, but I just want to be clear for anybody watching in the public, what does a flat budget really mean based on what we've heard from the departments so far, knowing it might vary based on their FTEs, changing costs, whether they can restructure or not within their department?
It doesn't mean that you have to lay off people necessarily. For example, these numbers, for the most part, include every vacant position being filled for the whole year. We have historically not had that happen. If you go to maybe slide 3, 4, the one with one more there. As you can see, we had currently, as of, I believe this was September 9/3, I was going to say 9/2, we had 131 vacant positions. Those right now are all in the budgeted numbers for the most part. So that adds up to a lot of numbers, a lot of dollars, excuse me. We typically run, we've been running right around 1,300 filled positions for the last number of years. We always have some vacancies. There's just you're never going to remain 100% filled. So those savings will help in some of that cushion. It may be things that we say we're not doing these programs, which may not involve people at all, but may be outside contracts. So I can't answer that it means it has to be. That is always, in business, it's always an option, but it's not a given that you have to do that, because you can always potentially restructure and use vacant positions to, instead of laying off, you can maybe eliminate vacant positions as you go forward.
Can I do a clarification?
Yes.
Well, the reason I was asking is because I thought we received a presentation from the detention department that if their budget was flat, based on their presentation, that it would require laying off over 20 current people. So are you responding more in the context of the overall budget being flat versus department specific?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm talking
All right.
more of a general. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see that presentation.
Okay.
I was
All right.
kind of in bed that day, so.
Fair enough. I think that's what I heard, and so I just wanted that to be clear, so.
Mr. Simmons?
Commissioner Jordan, if I could, yes, there are some departments that if they had to have a flat budget, they likely do not have vacancies today. They're filled and could result in layoffs, certain ones. You'll hear that from Scraps actually next week when they're in presenting. You did hear that from Detention Services. There's a number of other ones that have unfilled positions that wouldn't require a layoff. That would just be not funding vacant positions. But there very well could be that situation unless there's choices to reduce M&O, maintenance and operations for the public, operating expenses rather than individuals. But yes, there is a variety of things that would have to happen.
Thank you.
Commissioner Waldron.
Thanks for the presentation, Randy. So on this slide then, would it be fair to say that the additional budget requests, which is in the right-hand column, the black part of that column, so 23.9 million was requested of the board, but we have right now 12.1 million to spend with our expectation of, our current expectations around revenue?
That is correct.
Okay.
And again, that 23 number includes a lot of vacant positions currently.
Okay, okay. Because we did have some departments request filling positions that we left vacant last year, for
Correct.
instance. Okay.
So I have a question. So on the vacant positions, last year we did a vacancy adjustment. So is that adjustment in, have we done that for this year?
We did not, because when we do it, when we went back to the departments and said, you know your business better than we know your business, so we said, here's all of your positions. You can tell us how you would do it to meet next year's, whether you'd be cutting vacant positions or other positions, or you'd be cutting M&O. You know, for example, in our department, it was like I have to cut travel because most of my department is wages. So to get down there, I have to cut M&O or leave
Right.
positions vacant.
I guess
So
I'm just trying to make sure I understand. So when we did the vacancy adjustment last year, that's included in their target budget then? So
Yes.
we've already cut the vacancies basically
from
in-
a target, yes.
Okay, I just want to be clear, because I
Yes.
think that's been a confusing point to us as commissioners, and I even think to some department heads that, you know, when we made that adjustment, and now we're saying you need to meet that, we've forced them already into that vacancy adjustment from last year. Mr. Simmons?
You're correct, Commissioner. Inherently, they are in there if you just compare 24 to 25. They were done at the board level across departments that we identified had historically certain levels of vacancies. So there was probably 10 departments that we assigned a vacancy adjustment. This year, if you look at target budgets for 25, we allowed the departments to determine whether or not they wanted to build in some vacancy adjustments or not. We didn't do it at this, you know, at the top level down. Some departments did that. Some departments put vacancy adjustments in there or just chose not to fill positions. Other departments have requested that those positions be filled, even though they're vacant right now, through the additional budget request. So yes, you are accurate the way you set it up, or you laid it out, but we didn't do that in the 25 budget specifically. That was left to the departments individually to make that choice.
But I feel like we've, in some ways, you know, as commissioners, you know, we knew we were doing a vacancy adjustment to balance the budget because there's vacancies that, you know, haven't been filled or take a while to fill. As we know with detention services and with the sheriff's office, it takes a while to fill some of those positions. Or as we've seen with the prosecutor's office as well, seeing the prosecutor out there and public defenders. But we've kind of already set them at that lower rate then as we're coming into 2025. So it's just making sure I understand that that's where it's at.
Commissioner Cuny, we will go back on, and we can probably do it by tomorrow, but we can get you the value of what that vacancy adjustment was for each agency last year so that you have that information.
Because I feel that as when we were making that determination last year, we were doing the adjustment, but we weren't cutting those positions for the future. So
That's correct.
I just want to be clear on that was our understanding. Does someone else have another comment?
Did you want to follow up on that?
No, just thanks for clarifying that, but that's all I have.
Okay, Commissioner Waldron?
And so, just to clarify for those who are watching or going to watch later, the 12.1 million that we have, that is just with expected sales tax and property tax growth based on estimates, right? It doesn't include any other revenue that we could just, that's what you were saying, we could decide on at the November 18th hearing.
Correct.
Okay.
The property tax is going to be based upon a November 18th discussion, so that could add more revenue in here.
But you've built in like new construction
We
estimates.
did
and
build
that type
in
of
new
thing.
construction. We built in the negative for all the TIFs, because as you know, TIF money goes away from the general fund, even on the new construction.
Right.
So we did build all of the new construction in, but we did not build in any additional increases, whether it be in a shift, bank capacity, or a 1%.
So the 12.1 million number, though, so some departments have told us that they will keep certain positions unfilled when they presented the information back to us over the last month, right? And I guess to you guys in early September, and then we've been getting presentations over the last 6 weeks. So that includes, so there are some departments, like the auditor, that said, okay, I'm going to leave these 2 positions unfilled in order to meet that 2024 target budget, like a flat budget. So
That's-
those are all included.
Some of those have been built in, yes.
Some
If the
for-
departments have come back and said,
Okay.
I'm going to leave that one vacant to meet this target, we have adjusted for those that have requested that of us.
And then most of the departments that we've heard from on our Monday planning meetings, they've struggled because they want to fill the positions that maybe were empty, or they haven't necessarily given us a lot of details on how we might adjust their budgets. So that's a conversation that you're saying we need to keep having over the next month.
Yes.
Okay. And so, following up on that, have you thought about just looking at the rest of the departments to see, and the board could adjust, right? But doing like a percentage vacancy adjustment rather than position by position, knowing that a certain number of vacancies happen, across the county at any given time, and some in certain departments compared to others.
I would say that works better in a city than it does at the county, because when the commissioners adopt a budget, they are adopting appropriation authority. So even though we may say, as a county, we think we're going to have a 10% vacancy, and we budget a 10% vacancy, but if we don't assign that to an agency, they can go and spend all of their money on whatever, and we will end up with a shortfall, because you can't control the other elected officials.
So it'd have to be done department by department, is what you're saying?
That would be my recommendation. You don't have to do it that way, but that would be my recommendation to protect the general fund.
Okay.
So just for clarity, that once we adopt the budget for these departments of elected officials, they then have the discretion within that budget for whatever their department needs to do. Commissioner Kearns.
Randy, can I ask, the 12.1 million there of the current unallocated, is that taking into consideration still as reserving, was it 3.5 for outside agencies?
Tess, I believe we did have $3.5 million for outside agencies in the budget. So yes, if we did not spend that money, you would have more money.
Could in
Yes.
theory, bring
Yes.
some of that from the outside agency spending over here, because the majority of that is discretionary.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Randy at this point in time?
Just a clarification, knowing that we still have, of course, decisions to make at a global level, but are there any departments that in their proposed budget there are some departments that have made decisions, like I think the assessor, to reduce the number of positions and kind of restructure through attrition. I think that's what we heard. Are there any who have made decisions to lay off current employees due to this budget at this point in time?
I believe there may be one department that has decided to do that,
Okay.
but it's also a restructuring for that department, so I wouldn't. So it is a result, I guess, of this exercise, but I think they also saw it as an opportunity to restructure.
Okay.
I hope I don't sneeze. Okay, if there's no other comments for Randy at this point in time, this is a public forum. So at this point, then we will open it up to, again, this is a continuation from our first roundtable on Tuesday, September 24th, and our public comment period at that point. So I will open up to public comment. Anyone who would like to speak to the budget is welcome to come forward, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak to the budget. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come speak? Prosecutor Larry Haskell, if you would just state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes, even though I just did. We'll make sure it's on.
Other one.
Got it.
There we
I'm
go.
looking for a green light for some reason. Larry Haskell, Spokane County Prosecuting Attorney. Appreciate the board's time again. I know that we have met in other open public meetings on numerous occasions. And I'll tell you first a little bit about personally, I'm kind of an anti-tax person in terms of, I believe the consent of the people is very, very important to tax themselves through the government, essentially. I vote no on most of the initiatives that strike down taxes being imposed on the public in Olympia. In this particular case, we're facing not a shortfall necessarily, but we're trying to prevent a shortfall, but we do have the $12 million in excess of the 2024 adopted right now that we're anticipating. We had a discussion briefly about prosecutors. I know there's a belief, I believe, that's altogether too common but incorrect, that sometimes departments purposely underemploy in terms of the number of authorizations they have in order to create a fund with which to fund other projects. I think it's been made very clear that the prosecuting attorney's office is not doing that, and that we have struggled due to a number of external factors regarding the number of people that we can hire and the wage issues that have been addressed, and we're very grateful for the board's assistance on that. However, in this particular occasion, we do not intend to lay anybody off. And per our last discussion, we intend to hire those positions so that we can meet the statutory requirements that right now, quite frankly, we are not meeting, certainly the way that they were originally intended. So I would ask the board, on behalf of our office and on behalf of the public that we serve, to take a look at the $12 million, take a look at the county reserves also, and prioritize those according to public safety, and now the justice department is equally important, and not let those suffer cuts. That's where the county has said they will prioritize. If the board feels, this is my departure from my usual stance on taxes, that it would be helpful for the county to better serve the public with the $600,000 that could be gained from the property tax, myself as a private citizen even, I would say, okay, that's something that needs to be done. And that's coming from somebody who generally strikes down those votes that are taken without a direct vote of the people. But I think there's other things that we can still look at, and I think there may be other solutions within the reserves that the county carries right now to take care of that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I was like, there was no clock. Sheriff John Knowles.
Hi, Sheriff Knowles, Spokane County Sheriff. Number one, thank you for allowing us to come and address you this evening. I think the numbers proposed up here are daunting, and I don't envy the task that you have ahead of you. There are some really, really tough decisions to make. As far as the sheriff's office budget is concerned, I'll be straightforward and say we offered to give up none of our authorized positions this year. As I showed you all in the State of the County address, the numbers of FTEs per thousand in Spokane County is even lower than the average in Washington State by almost 0.5 FTEs per thousand. We simply cannot continue to keep the county safe with staffing where it's currently at. We are hiring at a rate that is better than we have done in probably the last 10 years. Some people have really gotten the word out that Spokane County and specifically the Sheriff's Office is a great place to live and work, and people are listening, and we're getting people in the door faster than we ever have. I will also add, and I think this is a credit to the commissioners, but also a credit to the men and women who work in Spokane County. I am out speaking to the public at least 3, if not more times a week, different group meetings, council meetings, and things like that. And to a person, when we talk about the challenges, the budget challenges we're facing here at the county and the city and the budget shortfalls, every person has told me that they would support paying more in sales tax, in property tax, or whatever if they knew it was going to support public safety. There is no reason not to support asking a little more from our citizens if it means making our communities safer. I have not had one person tell me yet that they would not pay more in property tax or in sales tax if it put more cops on the street, put more prosecutors and more public defenders and more people in our courts. Every single one of you has been very supportive of public safety and law and order, and I think when the opportunity comes here in a couple of weeks, I think you should vote accordingly and support a small increase in property tax to show this community that you support public safety. Again, a daunting task ahead, and I know there are going to be some positions we are going to have to give up as hard as you have worked to give us those positions in the last couple of years, and it breaks my heart now that we're getting to the point where we could actually staff them and get them filled, and I'm going to have to give some of those up. But I think we should not balance the county's budget on the back of public safety. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Preston McCullum, I'm the Chief Criminal Deputy Prosecuting Attorney for the county. I just wanted to echo a couple of the sentiments that Sheriff Knowles and Prosecutor Larry Haskell also shared. And I very much share the fiscally conservative values that those gentlemen have as well. I truly believe that it's the duty of most every blue-blooded American to pay the least amount of taxes possible. Every time I'm looking and seeing that tax hikes are occurring without a vote of the people, it really irritates me personally. But sitting in this role as, running the criminal division of our office, it's very clear that, public safety, criminal justice, it's not funded by good intentions. I mean, there has to be some avenue and some engagement beyond what we currently have. Our state has not provided a mechanism to fund public safety in a way, and it's always put down to the county and to the municipalities to bear the brunt of those public safety costs. And so, as Sheriff Knowles indicated in speaking to the community, speaking to the public, I too have had an opportunity to address a number of different groups locally, and again, to a person, as long as they were assured that funds were being spent for public safety, so that they could, walk to their vehicles in the evening without being concerned. We see it even on the county campus, right? We are offering our employees escorts to their vehicles, and so that's something that we hadn't seen in past years. I've had a lot of feedback from the business district downtown of people being frustrated with the idea that they can't go visit the downtown corridor without having, concerns about their families and their loved ones. And so, any opportunity there is to earmark and provide funding directly to public safety, I believe should be explored and taken. And what I would, again, encourage the board, if presented an opportunity, whether it be the sales tax or whether it be property tax, to provide some relief, especially in light of the presentations that the sheriff's office has provided, our office has provided, the public defenders have provided, detention has provided, to get to a point where we could hopefully finally staff certain levels and then be faced with the idea that, oh my gosh, I now have to cut. That's a position that I very desperately hope we won't be in next year. And so to the extent that, the board needs support from the community, I believe it's there. And I think that as you explore and reach out to the various constituents, it's going to be there, provided that this is going to be allocated and directed at public safety. And so, as Sheriff Knowles said, your positions are impossibly hard. You can't wring any more money out of places, and so you have to look, to all aspects of this budget and make some hard decisions. But I do think that you're well equipped to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to testify? Anyone online? Okay, so I'm seeing no one in the conference, in our hearing room, or no one online. I will then stop the public testimony for today. We will continue this public testimony. Are there any more questions or comments for Randy at this point in time? Okay. So then this is a continuation, and so we will then continue this meeting. I will not officially adjourn it because we will be continuing it to Tuesday, November 5th, 2024 at 2 p.m. I guess I have a couple of comments before I do continue, though, I guess. I think I just want to say that cost of living has gone up, and we all know that. Inflation has gone up, and we all know that. Cost increases for supplies, goods, services have all gone up. So as people are looking at their M&Os, to try to stay flat means you're cutting because those costs have all gone up. Our population has gone up. So we're seeing the need for more law enforcement. We're seeing the need for more prosecutors as court filings are going up. These are things we don't have any control over as commissioners. They're things that we are seeing every day, and we are going to have to make really tough decisions. I will say the other thing, as we look at the sales tax renewal that is on your ballot this year, just education purposes, educating that if that doesn't pass, as we've spoken to, we're going to add another $16 million deficit to our budget on top of the $12 million that we need to figure out. So those are the realities that we are facing as commissioners. And so those are the hard decisions that we'll be making. And it's just a reality. So I just wanted to make sure that as we talk about these revenues and expenditures and what we're going to be, the decisions we're going to be making, those are the realities that we have. So if there's no other comments, then I will continue this meeting until Tuesday, November 5th. 2024 at 2 o'clock, and I do need to state that we did receive one comment, written comment from the Civil Service Commission that all the commissioners received. Thank you all for being here tonight. Appreciate it, and we will see you for the next public roundtable on the budget.